One of the pervasive and permeating characteristic traits of people with Asperger syndrome is almost universally they have a problem with either avoidant personality disorder or something very close to it. So it merits our time to take a look a little bit deeper at what exactly is avoidant personality disorder. And the name pretty much says it all, is when you have this disorder, you tend to avoid other people. Well, there are 7 traits, and if you qualify for any 4 of these traits, then you are considered by professionals, by individual psychologists, individuals who will provide therapy, who will give you a diagnosis. You are considered to have avoidant personality disorder. So what are these traits? We need to know this and ask yourself this question as we're going through these. If you are an Aspie, do you have any of these 7 traits? Number 1 is this: avoids occupational activities that involve significant interpersonal contact because of fears of criticism, disapproval, or rejection. Now, the key word here is professional or occupational activities. That is to say, you have a difficult time at the workplace because, well, you tend to avoid people. Where did that come from? I mean, this avoidant personality, where did it come from? My answer is I don't really know for sure, but based upon my experience, it seems that people with Asperger syndrome are trained or programmed from the very beginning to be avoidant. That is to say that we go to, usually our first experience with other people is in school. That's why I keep referring to school in my videos. But when we first go to school, kindergarten, first grade, or even preschool, the thing that becomes very obvious is we don't have the ability to interact socially with others, and because of that, we are avoided by them. We avoid them because we don't know how to participate. We have, mind blindness. We just don't get it. And so avoidance becomes it becomes natural, becomes very normal. So we could say that we are programmed from day one being the first time that we are exposed to peers. We seem to be programmed to avoid them and avoid others. And it doesn't seem to dissipate, doesn't seem to go away. It just stays there. Number 2 is this: is unwilling to get involved with people unless they are certain of being liked. I don't know about you, but I kind of like being liked, and I know some people who don't like being liked. It's almost as if some people go out of their way to be disliked because I don't know why, but I'm guessing because it gives them a sense of control. If somebody doesn't like me, that means that I made them dislike me, therefore I am controlling them. It's how some people seem to think. We're talking about narcissists. By the way, I've got a channel on narcissism. You may want to take a look at that sometime. But those of us who have avoidant personality disorder that is associated with Asperger syndrome, what we may find is that we have experienced rejection so often, so many times, that we don't like to get involved with other people. And when we do, when we make exceptions, and we go ahead and say, look, we're being silly about this, let's go ahead and go to that class reunion or that family reunion, or let's go to church, or let's go to the school activity or the church activity, whatever it happens to be. And then when we get there, we discover that we're disappointed. That once again, just like we were in kindergarten or preschool, the only difference is the people are older. Same people, same reaction, and we still have that mind blindness. So we find that we have that same. I hate to call it pain because that's a little bit overreacting. So let's just call it stress. So we have that same stress and anxiety that we had back when we were little kids. Never goes away. So we just decide, I'm just not going to do this because I know the outcome before I get there. So why bother? What's the point? Is that accurate? I don't think it always is. In fact, sometimes I think we overreact to what we think is rejection, but maybe not. You could tell me about your experiences in the comments if you care to. Number 3 is shows restraint with intimate relationships because of the fear of being shamed or ridiculed. Intimate relationships, I'm not sure what that talks about. because intimate can mean a lot of things. So let's just guess. Let's say love relationship. So you have this individual, this person that you think that maybe you can strike up a relationship with, but you're a little bit hesitant to get involved because, again, you have been rejected so many times in the past, so now you're showing restraint. You don't really want to get involved with this person, even though he or she may be sending you signals that they're really interested in you. There's something about you they like, but there's something inside of you that is saying, I've been here before and it wasn't very pleasant last time, so it's going to happen again, so I'm going to stay away from this. My guess is when they say intimate relationships, I'm assuming that encompasses those love relationships or potential love relationships, but I suppose it also could include friendships or maybe close business associations, where once again, we don't want to get too close, too friendly. We don't want to divulge too much information about ourselves. The so-called bromance, that's not something that we really care to get involved in because we're afraid that they're going to find out. The other person is going to find out, or the other people are going to find out that, we're a little bit weird. We have this thing called autism. The people think we're space aliens, think we're a little bit strange. And so, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to avoid them. Once again, I got to ask the question, is that a good thing or is that harmful? I'd be curious to know what you think. Number 4 is preoccupied. Is preoccupied with being criticized or rejected in the social situations. I got to tell you that, I can't think of too many social situations that I've been involved in where I wasn't rejected, maybe not criticized, but often criticized. And I'm not sure why that is, but again, people have this sixth sense that they just notice, there's that uncanny valley with people with Asperger syndrome. They seem to be like they're humanoid robots. They're almost human, but not quite. There's something there that's a little bit off. Not sure what it is, so we're going to avoid them. So what I find happening is when we get into these social situations, whatever it is, it's often not us avoiding them, it's them avoiding us. And so we don't like to be avoided or rejected or criticized. And so we avoid them to not avoid them, but to avoid the rejection, to avoid the criticism, because again, it's stressful. It hurts. Number 5 is inhibited in new interpersonal situations because of feelings of inadequacy. You are probably familiar with this if you've ever started a new job. Now, I guess everybody may be a little apprehensive when they start a new job, or when you were a kid, maybe your family moved and you started a new school. You may have been a little bit inhibited, a little bit fearful, wondering what's going on. We mentioned a class reunion earlier. Maybe going to a class reunion. These are people that you have known in the past and you weren't real comfortable with them back then, and you're wondering, will I be comfortable with them now? Probably not. So you have this sense of inhibition. And again, it's reinforced by the mind blindness that is apparently a part of virtually everyone, at least everyone that I've ever met, who has Asperger syndrome. Number 6, views self as socially inept, personally unappealing, or inferior to others. And again, this is reinforced by other people because they often treat you as if you're inferior because you're not quite like them. That seems to be human nature. No matter how far back in history you go, if there have been humans, there has been rejection, there's been bullying, and the person who doesn't seem to be normal is the person who takes the brunt of the bullying. So that's part of being human. This is part of it. And when you face that, you say, there's obviously something wrong with me, and something that I have learned from the past is I actually am socially inept. I'm really not good at socializing with other people. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to act. Put me in a formal setting. A lot of people feel uneasy in a formal setting. Put them in a suit, tie, tux. Or if it's a lady, put on a a dinner gown or whatever, and everybody is prim and proper. And this is not the way these people behave normally, but they understand the context and they're dressed for it, they're behaving appropriately, and you got no idea how you're supposed to act. It's like the Queen of England is in the middle of the crowd and everyone is impressing the Queen of England. Well, here's the problem. That's the way people with Asperger syndrome feel just about all the time. Like you're in a formal setting and everyone else knows what is prim and proper except you. So you just kind of feel left out. You just feel inept. You just don't know. And that's not imaginary. That's very real. Again, mind blindness. We just don't have that capacity to know what to do, what to say. And because of that, I think sometimes we actually are unappealing. I mean, who wants to hang out with somebody who doesn't know how to behave? I mean, it's not that your behavior is bad or obnoxious or rude or crude. It's just that you just don't fit. It just isn't meshing with others. There is no synergy, none whatsoever. So people tend to avoid you. So that's how we view ourselves. And I think that self-perception is not necessarily erroneous. I think often it's very accurate. Number 7 is unusually reluctant to take personal risks to engage in any new activities because they may prove embarrassing. Have you ever been invited somewhere you'd never been before? Hey, you just don't want to go, because, well, it sounds like fun, but there's going to be people there? Nah, I don't think so. So we're just kind of reluctant to go, to participate, because once again, as we said already, we know the outcome before we get there. We know there's going to be rejection. We know we're going to be inept. We don't know how to behave. So we're reluctant to take that because it's not. To say that it's a risk is an understatement. It's a huge risk. And again, we know the outcome. We know what's going to happen. And so, unlike others, the word here is unusually. We are unusually reluctant to take those personal risks because we know that we're going to wind up being ashamed or embarrassed. And typically, when you get into a group of people, there's always somebody. Not always, but there's always somebody who senses that you are a little bit off, you're a little bit odd, you're the autistic guy. They don't know that, but they just know you're a little bit strange, space alien, and they got to point it out to everyone else. Sometimes it's not literally pointing to you and say, that guy is a little bit odd, but it's just the way they treat you, and they want to make sure that everyone else picks up on it the way they did. And so you find yourself embarrassed. You're kind of ashamed. You're the guy who winds up sitting all by himself. You're the wallflower, not because you want to be, not because you want to decorate the wall, but because nobody have anything to do with you. So that's unusual. And talking about neurotypical people, it is unusual for them to do that. But for people with Asperger syndrome, I think it is very usual, very common for us to be a little bit reluctant or maybe extremely reluctant to immerse ourselves in these new, what would you call them, new relationships or new experiences or activities where there are other people. See those 2 rectangles on the screen? If you like what you see, click one of those rectangles and you and I just keep on talking together. But if not, thanks for stopping by and we'll see y'all next time.